Hello, everyone. Welcome to the round one roundup. That's right. For the what's it called? Release the Yeast, Unleash the Beast tournament that we've got going on. For those of you that don't know, this is a 74-player online TTS tournament, and we've had a full round of games. We've had people winning, we've had people losing, we've had tears of joy and tears of pain, and we're here to go through the um, the results, talk about the games, talk about matchups, talk about stories of cool things that happened during the games. And joining me in helping tell these stories is my best friend in the whole world, Stuart McCarran. How are you doing, man?
Hello. Good. I'm surviving the Japanese summer nightmare. Yep.
That's a bit dark. Can you say something a bit happier about your life?
36 degrees every day. Couldn't be happier.
Excellent. Cool. So, what we're planning on doing is we're going to go around the table number that you can see on the stream in front of you, where Stuart's got table 1, table 2, table 3, the matchups, the results. We're going to go through each table at a time, um, talk about the result, talk about the armies that faced each other, and for those that we have a bit more information of, we'll do a bit of a deep dive and talk about some of the details of the game. Um, so table 1 is Assai Johnson versus DLF. Assai was playing his Zinch list with Kairos and Archeon, and DLF was playing his Ideneth, and Ideneth managed to get the win on this one, which was quite a good result for the Ideneth, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting because definitely when people coming in, people were thinking that that Zinch Archeon would be the big bad, but we've seen him go down already in round one, haven't we?
Hooray! I couldn't be happier. Apart from the guy that's going to get him in round two. It is worth noting though this was a 7-13 loss for the Archeon player. So getting 7 points with the new scoring system that we've got in AOS 3 is quite interesting. We've noticed it's a lot more granular. So instead of the standard 20-0, 19-1 or 18-2s that you were getting in the tournaments in AOS 2, we've got a really wide spread of scores. And it gives you people a lot more to play for, basically. So the results are going to be much more granular, with some lower scores for the winner and some higher scores for the losers, which is going to make for an interesting tournament, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I would encourage people to kind of throw out the mindset that when you get to 14 or low, it's in a minor win territory. It's still a major win, but just the standings will be more granular within the 5-1 bracket and the 4-1 bracket. That's the idea.
And even the lower brackets, we want to know who the best losers are, right? Biggest loser USA. We want to know who's got the least wins and the most points. So we'll be looking up for that at the end of the tournament. Moving on to table 2. Who do we have playing here?
It's me. It's my game.
How was your
Um,
game, Stuart? How'd you get on?
well, it was interesting. I'll start by saying I did win every priority roll, and we played 5 turns as well. So that's a bit of a stinger. Um,
You bastard.
but but I would say it's one of those ones where I got given the first turn when I was playing the
Well,
Yeti
who did you
list.
play against first?
Oh
What was the
yeah,
matchup?
sorry. I was playing Jacob Turner, who was playing a mean Soul Blight list with 3 units of 5 Blood Knights and Manfred, a Venga Boy, and Prince Vordra.
That was in
Um,
Castelli, is that right?
yeah, in Castelli. So he does mega damage. But what I was thinking going into the game is he didn't have many screens, so if we can just meet in the middle and my Yetis can kind of block him up a bit, I should be able to get the target priority, which is what happened. And on turn 3, the Frost Sword got into Vordry, managed to kill him. Um, and then the rest of the game, he was kind of out of damage, I think, to kill the Stonehorn. It was really only Vordry who could kill the big beastie. Once he'd gone down, he only had an Egg 1 Rend on the Blood Knights, and they were kind of a bit far away from the Frost Lord. But I will say that the early priorities mattered a lot, because as I'm sure we'll talk about when we get to other lists, but in Survival of the Fittest, that turn 3 priority
I
matters a
failed to
lot,
mention,
doesn't it?
yeah, that was the round one. The round one game for this tournament was Survival of the Fittest, which is 3 objectives in the middle, and you pick 3 predators.
Yeah, and the
Yeah,
fact
good
that you
point.
can
You're
burn
better to cause
one
a hunter.
in battle round 3, right, really can kind of swing a game,
Yeah, so
can't
round
it?
3 is seismic shift, which is one of the abilities in the new GHB. You're going to be deleting one of the 3 objectives in this battle plan, which is obviously a huge win if you can get that priority and choose to go second to delete an objective. Because the way that a lot of the game's shaped out, I'm sure we'll talk about, is that you had your objective on one side and you're fighting over the middle, and if you were able to get your objective deleted from underneath your feet, it would put you on the back foot quite a lot, right?
Yeah, and we both played to get it, so we basically parked our entire army on one objective each, and in the middle one just had like Yetis versus Wolves, the battles of champions. And then I got the priority and just deleted the one he was on. And then he came in and killed some Yetis, which never really feels that great, especially especially
How
when
did
you're
you
going in there
find
with
that
like with neg 3 rand on the board drive, just like, oh, you got no save, and I'm like, yeah, no, I definitely have no save. Yeah.
so the Yetis were dying in droves, but not quite enough to take the objectives off you? And how did the battle tactics go throughout the game?
Um, I mean, I find with the Yeti list that I have so many battle tactics that I can do during the game, because my list has a lot of units, and it's also got like particular units that can, like the Frostlord and Stonecorn can kill a unit full to dead fairly reliably.
Hmm.
So being able to do Savage Spearhead, and then also being able to get aggressive expansion, for example, because I have a bunch of units just to throw away on the first turn if I get given the first turn. That my opponent's not really going to stop me scoring any battle tactics. So the way that they've got to win is by usually on the objectives, I think. And so me being able to burn the objective on round 3 meant that I was always going to be equal to them or up on objectives. So I think that's what made the difference in the game.
Oh, congratulations on your win, Stuart. Even though but you got 14 points out of that one, so you're saying your opponent managed to get quite a few battle tactics as well.
Yeah, well, I think I mean I can't. The Yeti list just can't win that hard because I don't table people. I just kill particular units and then win the attrition game. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sure it was a fun game for all. Table 3, we had Blue Omnicron and his Soulblight list. He ran the Legion of Night list that you're quite a good fan of, into Maximus's Fangs of Sotek Croak list, and I think the Croak managed to do his thing and get the 20-0 for Maximus there.
Oh, okay.
Just having a,
I'm just having a
I think
quick gaze.
this was the list that was the
Yeah.
AOS 2 list that was completely ported over into AOS 3, and it's obviously still got its potency.
Yeah. That's a really strong list, isn't it? Like 2 units of 2 salamanders is terrifying, and I still think Croak is just obnoxious. I mean, I know you can kill him now, but the global unbinds at +3 is really, really good, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have too much information about this game, but I'm guessing that not a lot of the spells went off for the Soulblight player. I'd also be interested to know how the Purple Sun went, because Maximus is styling on people with the Purple Sun in his Seraphim list, which is quite cool. So congratulations to Maximus and his 20-0.
Nice.
Table
Okay.
4, we had another 20-0, and this was a Raymond, who was one of our favourite lists from the list show with his Nurgle list. Yeah, you were telling me how much you like this list.
Oh, this guy's my hero. I've been thinking about Nurgle for about 3 weeks now, and I just can't stop thinking about it. And someone in the US actually went 5 on the weekend, taking a list that on paper looks like it does nothing, and then you just add Blades of Putrefaction, and now it does something. So, no, look, I think with the Nurgle, like, obviously the Blades of Putrefaction is maybe a little bit overpowered, and I can't really see it lasting for very long, because it's, it's an AOS worded ability in AOS 3 that happens to just be really good.
It
But
slip
yeah.
through the cracks a bit, doesn't it? Being able to do mortal wounds on 5-ups with the all-out attack, which is what all these lists are tapping into, right?
Yeah, but Pascal Blightlords have never been good, so I'm glad that he's winning with them. That's amazing. They're great models.
And I think the Pascal Blightlords really helped him, and they were the the thing that allowed him to win this game. So he was playing against Trevor and his absolutely mad KO list with the Magma Joss in it, which perplexed us at the list building show, and we're a big fan of Trevor's crazy list. Raymond messaged me and told me a little bit about the game. He said that this KO player deployed in the corner, as you would expect KO corner to do, and then gave him the turn. Raymond was actually be able to spread out and zone off the whole board pretty much with the speed that a lot of the Nurgle units have with their running, and pluses to movement from Guo, and the Pascal Blight Lords being on flies as well, having that extra movement.
Yeah, they're a very fast unit. Like, so the way their movement works is they can get +8 move from a command ability from the Lord of Afflictions. So if you run them with the bell, they can move 25 inches and then also charge if they're near a tree, the normal, right? So that's a very fast unit. It's one of the fastest units in the game, probably, right?
And you don't expect that for some big fat lads on some flies.
Yes. Play with your Beast of Nurgle. That's the moral of the story. That's a lore reference to people who get it. Nice.
You told me about that. So Raymond said that's how he started off the game, and then Trevor shot pretty much his whole army into the Blight Lords, and I think did two wounds or something like that. That Raymond said didn't do a lot of damage because they're tanky with their 7 wounds apiece.
Yeah, 7 wounds, 4 up, 5 up. It's a very tanky unit. Reduced ran by 1 in combat as well because they're demons, so they're very tasty. They're very good.
So the shooting wasn't be able to do it, and then I think Raymond was able to clean up quite quickly. He told me that he managed to take out an Ironclad in one go, which I think is going to be something that's going to be like a golden standard of you are going to have to be able to take out things like Ironclads or more Crushers in one go. I think in your list, if you want to be competitive in the meta at the moment, is that how you're seeing things?
Yeah, and 4 Pascal Blight Lords with Blades of Putrefaction and an all-out attack will actually kill anything in the game in one hit. Like, it's actually... I don't think people will know until they've fully played against it when all the buffs land, but like they will one-hit Gotrek if all the buffs land. It's scary.
The volume of attacks, absolutely. So they've got like 4 profiles each, don't they? So when you're getting a +1 attack from the Glotkin or something like that, you're actually getting +4 attacks per model, which is just obscene when you're able to stack it all up.
Yeah, so if you're getting +3 attacks, I think they've normally got like 8 attacks each on the guy who's got the extra profile, so he gets up to 20 attacks, I think. So I think the unit has like 74 attacks. I think the unit has like 74 attacks. So if Blades of Putrefaction goes off, you're getting on average 25 mortal wounds in addition to what you're already doing. So 25 mortal wounds will already kill Gotrek. So that's just an indication of how strong they are.
Yep, so he was able just to completely one bang, I think was the word that he used, an Ironclad. And then I think the KO lists tend to fall apart once their Ironclad goes down. So Raymond got the 20 out.
Yep, nice.
And I really hope I think he's got Tavi in the next round, in round 2, so that'll be a huge match, Nurgle versus Seraphim. Keep an eye on that one. Table 5 was Sean Tubman, who you're a fan of, right? Versus Hayden Wright.
Yeah, so he's getting the wins with the OBR. Very nice. I did watch a bit of that game. Great to see someone playing OBR even in their semi-broken state. Yeah. He seems to really rate them, actually. I've seen him making comments around the place saying that he thinks they're still really good, and definitely, like, it's not to be underestimated how tanky that Petrifex list is. And Arcan still being able to do 3 Mystic Shields at the moment, in addition to whatever other wizard does it. So
I think the playstyle here is very much that unkillable wall of Mortek Guard that walk forward, plonk on objectives, and in this battle plan, Survival of the Fittest, that's going to work quite well when you can just park on 2 objectives and then hold off your opponent. I think that's probably how I imagine that game went down.
Yeah.
Cool. Table 6, an absolute slobber knocker of a game from what I was told. We had MJ Pegasus with his Sylvaneth and Anthony Feast Johnson with his Slanesh. So 2 armies that you're probably not going to expect to see on the top tables. duking it out round one. Oh man, I wish I was there.
Yeah, I mean, once I saw it in the matchups, I knew this was going to be a duel of champions, but I didn't know that it was going to be a draw. I mean, with the increased granularity in the game, I mean, getting a draw is so unlikely. People should really appreciate that. Like, that's probably going to happen one in every like 400 games. So they've definitely had a magnificent game.
So we do have a bit more information about this game. I think it was going into the Slaanesh' favour, I think, throughout the game, and then MJ Pegasus was able to do some clutch plays towards the end and managed to score the last 3 points by summoning a branch wraith and teleporting it through the woods onto an objective at the last minute. I think was what he was able to do. Not summon a branch wraith, but able to summon some woods to get his branch wraith onto an objective, which was cool. We had some other crazy things happening in that game. We had a lone Kernoth Hunter making a 9-inch charge, piling 3 inches, and managed to kill Sinessa sitting at the back of the Slaanesh army. So that Kernoth Hunter is going to get Alariel's blessing. He did well there. And then Bliss Barbs taking down Alariel, the Queen of Thrice herself. How do you feel about Bliss Barbs? Because I know that Anthony went all in on his Bliss Barbs, didn't he?
Well, I mean, what a champion. I mean, killing a god with just, you know, some 33 bow boys is it's pretty good. But I mean, in all seriousness, Alariel, like, maybe it's a little bit expensive considering that can happen. Yeah.
Well, so are the Bliss Barbs, so I think that was the overcost point fight of the decade.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, to be fair, like, 33 Bliss Barbs is only 200 points cheaper than Alariel. So, like, given that she gets an extra summoned unit, they're kind of the same points. So,
yep.
Fair enough, I guess.
Good trade.
Nice.
Yeah, that's just. I mean, these two are absolute champions. Both English British players, and they've been sticking to their guns, sticking to their armies that might not be the most competitive armies, and bringing them to an otherwise quite stacked competitive event. And it was just beautiful to see them match up round one and bring themselves to a draw. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on how they both get on throughout the rest of the event.
Maybe the first draw ever in AOS 3 so far. I don't know. Possible. Who knows?
The whole edition. Worldwide. Well done, MJ Pegasus and Thief. We're glad to hear that you had such a great game. Table 7 was Ben Leon, who I think is Exalted Len, who makes my day better every time he looks for a game in the Discord. He posts a WWE meme, which I'm a big fan of. And he managed to play against Mitch. Ben was running his Slaves to Darkness Vanguard list, I think. Mitch, I can't quite remember what Mitch was running. Can you have a quick look for me?
Let's have a gazer.
I think it was
Oh, 9 point, yeah. Oh, that's right. This is this game, yeah. Yeah. Remember this?
I do remember this game. So I was told it was a really cagey game, right? And I think if you want to have a look at Ben's list as well, they're both armies that are going to look at to control the midboard with the bodies and tank objectives like that. I think the Slaves of Darkness was able to edge it on that. I was told it was a really, really cagey game. And then the opening came when the Vanguard were able to 6-inch pile in and a surprise Manfred, because you can't pop away if you're piling from 6 away. So I think that was the clutch play that enabled Ben to peel apart the Nighthaunt and get the win there.
Yeah, it's interesting. That 6-inch pylon's still mega strong, isn't it? Even with the redeploy being maybe a bit of a problem sometimes.
Absolutely.
Nice. Okay.
Table 8, we had Dedrix, who I also can't remember what he was playing, but I know Tobias was running his cities list. Do you want to have a quick look at those lists for me?
I think this is the one where...
the other Legion of Night list, with the Vargheists.
Yeah.
So we've seen a couple of Soul Blight results come in, and seem to be losing a couple of their games. I think all three that we've seen so far have actually lost their games. So how do you think Soul Blight are shaping up to be in AOS 3?
I think I played one game. I did the classic play one game, lose horribly, and then overreact. So I remember the first game of AOS 3 I played against was like 180 zombies or something. And I did lose.
Against Arthur?
Yeah, I did lose, but the list that I was playing was not very good. So anyway, I posted some hot takes on Twitter being like, zombies are an S tier army. But now that the dust has settled, I think I think Soulblight Gravelords are probably a mid tier army, aren't they? Like a fat middle army. There's some strong stuff in there,
what
but
do we think they struggle with? They're taking the output, or is it the survivability, or is it something else?
oh, they've got one of those age-old problems, don't they, Luke? Where they can't deal with screens. There's nothing that deals with screens in an army. So although you have
No
all these
shooting in that army, really.
yeah, although you have all these great combat threats like Prince Vordry, you can't necessarily get him where you want to go because you don't have any shooting to kill the screens, and also your screens are not very good at killing other people's screens. That's something that people really underestimate. But if you've got a screen that's like 10 Witch Elves, and your opponent's screening it with 10 Direwolves, the 10 Witch Elves will always beat the 10 Direwolves, and the end result of that will mean that your army has a screen and your opponent doesn't. So there's not a lot of value to having bad screens, because your opponent can just send their screens into your screens, win, and then you're just back at square one, basically.
I think we said that during our list review show that there's all these big fights with big units and god monsters, but there's also in AOS we've noticed a lot of these little screen-on-screen fights, and we said it then and we'll say it again now. We think they're going to be really important to shaping the outcome of the game.
Yeah, like definitely when I'm playing the Yetis, that's always been the advantage of the list, is that they will just beat the opposing screens that your opponent puts in front of them, and the games that I lose are the games where they lose the screen battle, or your opponent just has some silly AoE move, most of which have gone because there's no Demon Rift that just kills like 8 units of Yetis in one turn.
We don't talk about that anymore.
That did happen a few
gone
times.
And we're glad.
There's still Warp Lightning Vortex though. That will still ruin my day, and that will still ruin everyone's day.
Only people were playing
in KO.
Skaven. Or KO.
It's
Yeah.
KO. It's not a Skaven endless spell. It's a KO endless spell.
God damn it, GW. You're so right. Okay, we'll move on to table 9. This was an absolute titan of a match. We had Alan Spogmatjob and his 4 Carnosaur Monster Mash versus Maestro's net list. I'm not going to call it anything else. His Marathi Gotrek snake list. Before we look at the end result, how do you reckon, going into this blind, that matchup would have gone? Seraphim versus Doc, some of the most competitive lists in the meta at the moment.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because your normal Seraphim list usually has quite a number of threats. It's not like a big Death Star list where you have like 800 points in one hero. Usually they have a range of threats. So, I mean, in AOS 3 now we've got a range of monsters you can take as heroes, which Alan has done, which can give a nice little combat threat, as well as an anvil if they have Amulet of Destiny. And also they've got, those shooting units like the Salamanders and that kind of thing. But Seraphim have always been able to have a lot of threats on the board, so if your opponent has a couple of huge threats that they really need to make stretch over the board, sometimes it can be quite hard for them to win. And that's definitely how the Tzeentch Archeon versus Seraphim matchup went in the old edition, where if you're on one of those really spread battle plans, like forcing the hand, it was quite difficult to get Archeon into all of your opponent's stuff in order to actually score the points. So, I think that's what Alan really used to leverage his win here, right?
I think so too. I don't have too much information about Alan's game, but he managed to get the win 14-6.
Yeah, I've just put his list up here just to show, you can see he has 4 threats in his leaders, as well as those 2 Salamanders. So when you're playing against the Gotrek, Marathi, and 15 Bloodstalkers, they have to kill all of those really to to be home free, like because in
It's
the old
threat
edition,
saturation, isn't it?
yeah, well, in
It's
the
threat
old edition,
saturation
right,
within the
like the
Seraphim
15
list.
Bloodstalkers used to have so many screens, like they would have like 4 layers of screens. Now
Yeah,
with
with
the
all the
points
shadows,
increases,
stalkers and stuff.
as well as the fact that people are taking Go Trek, you don't have that many screens. So usually what ends up happening is the Bloodstalkers just have to kill everything around them, or else get charged and die. Um, so he really has to kill all of these threats, or at least get them in threat range of Morathi and Gotrek, to really stop his Bloodstalkers from dying. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the threat saturation. So the Bloodstalkers are looking to blow up that key piece that you have, and in that list, Alan's got obviously his key pieces in his Carnosaurs and Salamanders and stuff. But if you blow one of them up, you still got 4 or 5 left on the board, right? Um, and one of them's going to be able to get in and reach. I mean, you were telling me before when you're playing a shooting army, it's can you kill all the stuff that can kill you before it reaches you? Because once it reaches you, it's good night. So maybe that's what happened here, and maybe Morathi and Gotrek were able to be kited in a way that they couldn't block all the multiple threats from the Seraphon. But if it was another player, this might have surprised me. But Alan's a top player, isn't he? Really, Alan's a top player.
Yeah, and I think a good player um, can often make Morathi quite useless if they play it right with an army that's got a range of ways to deal damage at range. You can often make Morathi quite useless under certain circumstances. So
Same with Gotrek. If you've got the speed to just ignore him, I think that's what a lot of these top players are going to try and do. Is just ignore him, mitigate him, accept that he's going to have an objective that he calls his, and then try and play the rest of the game away from him. I think that's certainly how I've approached my games against Gotrek.
Yep.
Well, moving on to another Seraphon list that was against a Gargant list. So we had Tavi go 20-0 against the Gargants. Connor was running Stomper Tribe, so we had the War Stomper, a Gatebreaker, and then a unit of the Man Crusher Mob, which is 3 models, and then 3 individual little baby Gargants. And Tavi had the similar thing where he's got the threat saturation. He's got a Carnosaur, a Bastillodon, 2 Salamanders, and the Slan doing his magic stuff as well. And he was able to control the middle of the objective with his Saurus Knights, which we think are one of the best screens in the game at the moment. The Gargants just sort of came into, and then everything else tidied up quite tastily afterwards. Tabby told me that he did 30 wounds to the War Stomper in one go, and then the next turn was able just to wipe out the Man Crusher mob in one go, and was able to get his monsters, the Carnosaur and the Bastillodon, really tanky with all the pluses to save that he has in his list, with Mystic Shield and all-out defense. And the Gatebreakers and the Man Crushers were struggling to get through the high armor on the Bastillodon in particular. So Seraphon looking really hot still.
Yeah, I was watching that game and it looked really bad for Tavi after like the first turn, and then it just all came crashing down for the Gargants. It's just a disaster. Like Tavi's just doing so much damage. Yeah.
I think Stomper list is going to struggle against the Seraphon, where they don't. Tavi's list in particular, he didn't have the hordes of skinks, so your Man Crushers are not going to be getting their damage bonus that you'd get from Stomper Tribe normally, because they're less than 10 models, a lot of the units in Tavi's list. So I think he really lacked the output. I think Tavi said he only lost like 5 knights in the end of it, and was able just to control where they went and shoot them with the Bastillodon, or get the decisive charge with the Carnosaur and take things out in one go. I think being able to take things out in one go is really key, especially when you're playing Gargants.
Yeah, absolutely. Having that Gargant on 1 wound still counting for 20 or 30 can definitely make or break a game. So having that reliable damage.
Won me some games, so yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, need that reliable damage.
The story that we're seeing so far is the list that'll be doing really well, like Raymond with his 20-0, Alan and Tavi. Damage output seems to be pretty important here, don't you think?
Yeah, like in the last edition, you would say it was more the ability to do damage in specific spots, like that scalpel sort of style. But maybe we're seeing more of a shift to just
teleporting.
Yeah, we might be just seeing
Pure
more of a
output.
shift to just like what are your stats? Like get on the scales, mate. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Hit the gym. We'll move on to table 11. This game was Joshua Rugaz with his Gargants versus Miles Joshua and his Doc against Miles's Gargants. Sorry. And this game ended up being a forfeit actually due to a misplay of rules. So Mile getting the 20 O's with his Gargants there.
Yep. Okay,
We
Luke
won't
doesn't
leave
want
it
me to
too
talk
long.
about it, but I'll just say, above anything else, like when you come to a tournament, I think, knowing your rules is absolutely the best, the most polite thing to do. Like know the inside outs of your rules so that you don't end up in some awkward situation with your opponent that feels bad for both sides. So just get whatever you need to do, those flashcards or whatever, and memorize your own rules.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I think what a lot of people, it's a new edition, so people are being tripped up on using AOS 2 knowledge that they have and just think it automatically transports over into AOS 3, and that might not be the case. So think about how your war scrolls and your book interact with the new rules. Don't just assume that everything is the same, because I know that's what tripped Joshua up here. We won't talk about it for too long, and we'll move on to a game that I was really looking forward to watching. I was able to watch a little bit. That was Rob Hull with his Nagash, and I think this is Pumpkin Hill on Discord with her Trogs.
Yeah. Rob's my opponent for round 2, so this is this seemed like a very interesting game, Luke.
Yeah, so I was only able to pop in and out a little bit, and I think for the earlier stages of the game, it actually went the Trog's favour with the output of the Rock Guts, just being able to smash through, because there's not a lot else other than Nagash in Rob's list. There's 20 Graveguard, and it feels like that's about it. And when I viewed the game at turn 2, they weren't there anymore. It was pretty much just Nagash and 2 heroes. But obviously, we can tell from the result there that Nagash was able to ping off a lot of the Trogs. Although they had their magic resistance because they were in the Mog's Mega Mob. So I think Nagash would have actually had his damage effectiveness reduced by a third with their 5-up spell ignore that all of the Trogs had in that army. So Glog's Mega Mob coming in clutch, but maybe not clutch enough.
I think you'll see I suggest the game probably, look closer from the start than it might have actually been, as the game went on.
Yeah, probably.
And I think you'll see this sort of score a lot from the Archeon Nagash kind of list with like one big hero. It's quite hard to get like really far ahead with those guys because you're often committing yourself to one objective. So on the primary, the objective scoring, you might not score as much as you will on the battle tactics, which when you're playing with a huge monster like that are often almost guaranteed. So I think you'll see the 14-6 kind of spread quite a bit on those lists.
Really, really enjoying the new scoring system that Trogdor's implemented here. I think this was one that he got off Rob, off the Honest Wargamer, suggested, and it's created some really interesting scores.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
A not so interesting score, and probably a result that no one was surprised by, was AOS coach Anthony Magro's match versus Charles. So we had Doc without Gotrek and Snakes versus Doc with Gotrek and Snakes. Can you guess who was bringing which?
Yeah, I feel for him because I've done this as well, where you've gone into a tournament and you've drawn the mirror on the first round, and it does feel a bit bad. Yeah, but hopefully it shouldn't happen again, right?
I think it was a pretty brutal match with the Snakes just taking off Anthony's clouds of Witch Elves, and Marathi's a good Marathi counter, apparently.
Yeah, there's quite a few models like that in the game. Like Archeon is really good at killing Archeon, for example. So if you're in the Archeon mirror, it's often just super explosive because you can just blow each other up. Yeah.
Yeah, same with Kragnos versus Kragnos. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, who gets the charge first? And then someone rolls a 7 and does nothing. Brilliant.
So we're talking about who gets the charge first. I think priority rolls are going to be key for that, and getting low drops. I think Charles outdropped Anthony in that match. So how do we feel about going low drops and maybe going first, or getting the choice to go second, winning you or losing you games? Do you think that's something that's really prevalent?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the mirror match, it's difficult to say because often the mirror match can be decided on just a few differences in the list. Like maybe here it might have been just decided on the fact that he had Go Trek and Snakes, and I'm not sure that going first or second would have helped him very much because the choice is either go first and not do much because he doesn't have shooting and then risk getting doubled, or go second and risk losing a lot of your key units so you can't get on the objectives and you kind of get locked out of the game. So I don't think him being able to pick the turn really would have done that much, unfortunately. I think the mirror match really just requires a lot more experience and knowledge of the matchup than really any other matchup that you play. Like, if anyone ever played Zinch Archeon versus Zinch Archeon, like, that was just a huge head game. Like, if you ever want to play hard Warhammer, that's really hard Warhammer, like, because you're basically playing chess at that point, because you have the same army, and there are so many strange interactions that you haven't thought about. And I think we said it on the end of that sort of meta that the best strategy for playing it was to go first, run Archeon as far forward as you can, and then put the fight when he dies on him, and that was actually the best way to play it, which is just bizarre. Like, that's not what you would think the strategy is, but that's the nature of the mirror, right? It's just really weird.
Yeah, and you mentioned experience. I think this was Coach's second or third game with the dock, and Charles has been repping the dock way into AOS too. So, well done for Charles there. Table 14, we had Half and his Lumineth versus B Timmy's KO. The KO managed to smash the 20-0 win here. I'm not sure what flavour Lumineth Half had. I think he had the more standard Warden list. Half was the Lumineth player there.
Yeah, B Timmy was. He had the Barrack Thring one, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So I mean, if you look at this list, right?
Yeah.
There's not much here, is there? Now, then you go look at the KO list. I mean, the output on this list is just absurd, isn't it? Like, that's a lot of damage. Where is he?
You on round 2?
Yeah. Where am I? Here. B Timmy.
Table 14. So
and just to correct myself from the previous show, yeah. So the Iron Drakes do get the reroll ones to hit and exploding sixes.
I was right.
Yes, I got confused. Coalition units also get the sub-faction keyword, yeah.
Yeah, so those Drakes are re-rolling ones, have an opportunity to go exploding sixes once per game with the Barrack Thring footnote from their article. And then I really like the 10 Thunderers in this list, didn't we? We talked quite a lot about that, and they were obviously able to just blow the Lumineth off the board.
Yeah, and I actually quite like... I didn't talk about it at the time, but the Admiral's quite a good pick. He can actually make the Ironclad with the Thunderers in it pretty decent in combat, which people will not expect at all.
Repel the Borders command ability, yeah. That one's quite cool.
Yeah, he's a really good model. He's gone up in stock a lot because he's still got kind of the old command abilities, and he's also got that whole garrison plus one to hit. Yeah.
This army's got a lot of access to reroll hits, especially reroll ones to hit, which obviously KO lost with their loss of the Triumph, but have gained by keeping the reroll ones from the Barrack Thing. I think such a key part of this list, and then also the Admiral being able to give reroll ones to the Ironclad as well.
Yeah,
I don't think there's too many surprises here. We mentioned that the Lumineth list was going to struggle against shooting because it didn't have the same shooting dominance or magic dominance that other Lumineth lists had, and it got the KO matchup round 1. So B Timmy was able to secure the win there.
Nice.
We then had Antu versus I don't know how to say this. For core better. This was Antu running the net list, the Marathi Gotrek snake list into Ogre with Kragnos. You were telling me earlier that you don't think Kragnos is the one in Ogres.
No, I like the Morpot too much. It's so much better in this edition, but Kragnos just has the most epic anti-synergy with the Morpot. Like, he gets stuck behind that thing hard because it's impassable and he doesn't have fly, and he's got a huge base. So just leave the Morpot at home if you take him in Ogres, I reckon, actually.
I know that this was a much tighter game than maybe the score looks. I mean, 14-6 isn't obviously, it wasn't a complete blowout like some of the 20-0s that we've had. So I do want to give shout out for core better for being able to take 6 points off an experienced player running a top meta list. So well done there. It is nice being able to sort of see the more, the victories you can pull out of a loss, because every game has those moments that are victories for both player, regardless of the end result. So it's nice that the new scoring system can highlight that a bit more, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
We then had Codrin, who was running the Archeon 6-circle list, I think, into James and his cities. I don't think we have too much information about how these games went, but this was, 6-circle Archeon was able to go through cities, and that doesn't surprise me, if I'm being honest.
No, and again, I think you're saying like he didn't like that game probably was quite one-sided, but he's got the 16-4 again because a lot of it's tied up in one model, and you can't necessarily get super far ahead early. Yeah.
I think the next game's going to prove your point even further, because we had Joel Graham with a Zinch Archeon list versus Josh and his Gargants. I know you watched a bit of this game.
I did watch a lot of this game, and well, Archeon was a bad matchup for Gargants in AOS 2, and it's even worse now. So it was very rough.
Do you want to explain why that is?
Yeah, so it used to be before that, Archeon could go in and kill basically one Gargant a turn, and the way that he got around you killing him was that he would do stuff like change the dice roll on one of your charges with Kairos, so you couldn't get him and kill him. So in that situation, though, like if you actually got into Archeon with 3 breakers, you would actually kill him. But now, you won't. You will do no damage, because if he's at plus, let's say plus 3 or 4 save, and he's rerolling 1s to save, he's on 2s rerolling 1s against Ren 3. And this is in addition to you already hitting him on 5s to hit rerolling 6s, right? Ignoring if you don't have any pluses to hit, right? So
absolutely,
the Gargants really have no way to deal with him, and the Gargants also struggle to kill pink horrors, I would say. So given that he's got some in his list and he can summon more, that's something else that you have to deal with, because often if you go in with a Gargant, they won't kill a full unit of pink horrors and they'll be stuck there. So like if you get the double, for example, you're not really going to be able to do anything with it. And meanwhile, Archeon's going to be going around killing a Gargant a turn, especially with the double pile-in from the Chaos Lord.
I just want to interrupt there. And you said Archeon killing a Gargant a turn. Archeon managed to kill 2 Megas, including the 5-up ward, and 3 babies in 2 rounds. So that's huge amounts of output, and I think that's probably to do with the fact that this Archeon was double piling in with the Chaos Lord command ability, and was able to keep up to him. Thanks for I've got a message here from Joel. Thanks, Stuart, for the Laucon tech. So, do you want to explain how that might have really improved Archeon's output?
Yeah. So one of the issues in the past with the Chaos Lord, he's a great model. He's got a command ability. For those who don't know, at the start of the combat phase, you can target a Slaves of Darkness unit wholly within 12, and it can pile in a second time in that phase if it's within 3 of an enemy unit. Now, the problem was in the past is you're YOLOing Archeon forward with the Host Arcanum pre-game move and all the Destiny dice and that, and you just got this little guy with a spear just running as fast as he can towards Archeon, but he just can't quite get there. Now, you could take Bridge before, but it was 100 points, and even then you still couldn't quite get far enough, right? Because it's basically, more or less 18 inches on how far you could go. But now, you've got Lorcon the Soul Seeker. Now, people will say you can only target wizards. That is true, but anything can be a wizard if you really want it to, Luke. Anything can take Arcane Tome. So, if you take a Chaos Lord with Arcane Tome and then put him through the Bringy Dingy, he can basically move, I think it's 24 inches with the Lorcon the Soul Seeker, and then his command ability is 12. So he's got basically 36 inches of range with the command ability. So if you deploy him approximately near Archeon before you do the first game Alpha Strike, the first turn Alpha Strike, you're going to be able to get Archeon double piling it. Yeah, that's the sum of it.
Yeah, so it actually, like you said, was a really dominating performance from Joel, taking off the Gargants in quick measure, but was only able to get 16 tournament points, and Josh getting the 4 points there. So I like your point highlighting the fact that these big god monsters like Nagash and Archeon are going to win the games, but might not get the 20 O's in this new scoring system.
Yeah, and that's going to have big implications for how we structure tournaments as well. Because I mean, there needs to be a conversation. So this is a 6-game tournament, right? So probably I think it's one person, right, can go 6-0, and they're going to be the undisputed victor. But if it was a 5-person tournament, I think it'd be very unlikely that an Archeon player would be the top of the 5-0s, right? So the top of the 5-0 might not actually be the best list in a 5-round tournament if you've got like some big monster lists in there, because possibly they would lose to those in the last round, right? I think that's a fair hypothesis. Yeah.
That's quite an interesting one. Can't wait until we get more tournaments and we can start seeing if Stuart is right or wrong. Table 18, Jolly Blade's Nighthaunt versus Damien's Ideneth Deepkin. Pretty convincing win for the Ideneth here. Ideneth are doing well so far in the tournament.
We got one funny story from this game, don't we, Luke?
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Poor guy. What happened, Stuart?
So apparently he charged 10 Blade Guys for evidence into the turtle, and then the turtle unleashed hell and then killed 7 of them. So that's always fun.
Shots.
That's always fun, isn't it? Oh, poor guy.
Not fun at all. I think the turtle was pretty much clutch here. I think not being able to take down the turtle, the Nighthaunt lacking on the mortal wound output that he needed to get through that turtle, and the turtle just sort of ragged him about a bit, I think is how it went down.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can agree that Nighthaunt are in a difficult spot. So, I mean, props to him for taking them to the tournament.
And he got the 1 point, so he didn't get completely blasted out of the water. We'll move on to another Ideneth match. This was Khorne versus Archeon. Orcman, the betrayer of greenskins everywhere, taking his Khorne into this is Poro on Discord, a very proficient Ideneth Deepkin player. And by God, this was a nail biter of a game actually. On paper, you would have probably given it to the Ideneth, but Orcman, let's talk about him for a second. What a player.
I mean, he's got Centaurs in his list, so I mean that just tells you everything you need to know about him. Just what an absolute legend, right?
Absolute hero. I think the story of this game was that the Ideneth were winning the fights, were winning the output, were removing the core models, but I've played Orcman once or twice. This guy's able to get... He focuses on victory points. He doesn't focus necessarily on killing your big bad. He just makes sure that he gets on objectives every single turn. And I looked at we've got a handy scoreboard on the new Dynoc table that tracks all of the points. Orcman got his battle tactic every single round. Orcman got all the 3 objectives, the 3 points you can get for objectives, I think 4 out of the 5 rounds. So he really put the pressure on Poro not only to kill the Khorne, but to keep up on points as well. And that's why we got a win for Jonathan. It was 26 to 25 in the end. And in the new scoring, that actually still results in a 10-10. This isn't a draw, but it was still a 10-10 on the victory points. So hats off to Orcman for surviving the Ideneth onslaught and getting 10 points out of it.
Yeah, it's a shame he lost by 1 point. That's got to hurt.
It came down to the round 5. Can the Ideneth kill a Bloodthirster to get the 3 victory points from the grand strategy? And they were able to with their Morsar Guard. So grand strategies was actually the only thing that lost Orcman this game. And I think list building and grand strategies is another good thing to talk about. In list building, we've noticed that some armies have almost automatic list grand strategies. When you think, oh, I'm running loads of monsters, I'll take Beastmaster. And some other list, you build a balanced list and you think, well, what actually am I going to choose for my grand strategy here? Is that what you have found as well?
Yeah, I think there are some lists where it's like, if this guy dies, I lose the game. So let's take that grand strategy. For example, any list with Nagash will be either Prize Sorcerer or Beastmaster, right? Because if he dies, 100% you will lose in the game, right? So you got to just get the free 3 points, right? And then there are some other lists, like the interesting one is the
Not the
Marathi.
Seraphim lists and the Marathi lists.
Yeah, the Marathi Gotrek snakes list, right? Doesn't really have a good one, does it?
We've been seeing hold the line, I think, for that one because you're thinking that the 15 snakes are going to be safe at the back of the board, but if you get to them, you kill them, and then there's not a lot else to hold up that grand strategy there. So yeah, I think grand strategies would be a good thing for people to think about during their list building. Shall we move on, Stuart?
Sure. Yeah.
This is table 20, and this is slowly becoming one of my favourite lists in the tournament. Olivier's Fox list versus Tiger Sloth Corn.
I didn't know that he got the full 20-0. Okay. Okay. Yep.
I just don't think Corn can touch the Fox.
So, for those who need reminding, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a fox and 2 other foxes and then some stuff, right? And then some sentinels. Yeah, that's pretty much
the
it,
output,
right?
the shoot. I think we questioned the output of this list because we thought it might be a bit more scalpel damage, but I think this was like a tabled in turn 2 situation, to be honest.
Yeah, but corn
Brutal.
corn is paper thin, isn't it? Like it's got to be one of the squishiest armies in the game. Like it just doesn't have any armor, and a lot of the a lot of the key pieces like Bloodthirsters are very easy to kill, even for their points.
Mm. So well done, Olivier, for picking up the win. But I think it'll be interesting to see what he gets later on in the tournament. Maybe if he matches up something really tanky, like maybe Sean Tubman's Mortek guard list, or
Oh my, yeah,
maybe a
that
Gargant
would
list
be
or an Archaon list or something like that would be more interesting, right?
that would be a bizarre game. 3 foxes versus a bunch of bone dudes with some catapults. That would just be bizarre.
I'm not sure what he's got for round 2, but let's see if we can make it happen. Cool. Moving on, got Artyom, one of the angry alpaca lads, and Matt Grinney. Matt Grinney was running his defensive snake dock list, so not one of the Marathi Gotrek snake list, but it was instead trying to buff up the defensibility of his stabby snakes with the Heart of Cain Endless Prayer thing and Frostheart Phoenix. We thought was quite cool, but wasn't able to prevail against Artyom. I wasn't able to watch this game. Did you catch this game?
I didn't catch this game, but I think from what I've heard about it, like, yeah, although he's buffing the defenses, a lot of them were in melee, and a lot of the range coming at him was ranged. So I think that was the problem there. Yeah.
Okay. I think you got a bit more information about the next game, which was Wilhelm versus Will. This was a Seraphim versus Bone Splitter matchup.
Ah, yes. So, I mean, people like, who's who? Well, the Bone Splitters managed to take it home.
Well done, Will.
Unfortunately, he lost today in round 2. Rest in peace. But we won't talk about that. I mean, what a champion for winning with Bone Splitters. So, I mean, what it sounds like, I think he got Curse off, right? That's what I heard.
And Arrow Boys.
Yeah, and with those Arrow Boys, that's 15 mortal wounds on average because they do 90 shots for some reason. So, yeah, I think he was just able to do enough damage to take the Seraphim out.
I also think this was a bit of a matchup thing where Wilhelm was running Thunder Lizards, so the Coalesced ignoring 1 damage. That doesn't matter when you're doing lots of individual instances of 1 mortal wound with the Arrow Boys. So maybe there's something to be said of doing damage with 1 damage profiles instead of the big multi-damage monster profiles, especially with Gotrek knocking about. So, cool bit of tech there. Curse and Arrow Boys managed to pull the win out for Will.
Yeah, although I don't think, Luke and I played the other day and I was playing with War Dogs. I cannot see War Dogs remaining as they are going into the new book. That thing has got to be one of the most underpriced models in the game. So for those who don't know, it is a priest and a wizard, and the prayer on its war scroll is not a prayer, it's an ability, much like the Skink Priest. So you can do it multiple times with different war docs, and you can also do a lore prayer. So you can do like the 5 up, get an extra command point. You can do 4 up for the curse or the heal. And you can also do a spell, and Bone Splitters have access to a range of great spells, and he can obviously give himself +1 to cast from the dance, which is not a quote-unquote prayer. So he gets to do 3 things a turn, and he's 85 points. Brilliant.
I don't think it's going to last too long, but I'm glad that that little chap is dancing until his demise in the new book. So we'll definitely trying to see what he can get out of the Bone Splitters before the new Orc War Clans book. So, well done for getting the win. I think he said to me that he was expecting to get a 0-6 result at this tournament, and he's just proven himself wrong there. We're getting the win on round 1. So, we love you, Will.
And we love you, Brogue Idol. And it seems like it might be going away, so yes.
Rip. Cool. We had another Seraphim match with Forgive taking on Hunter. You'll have to remind me what Hunter played in this matchup, but it was another 20-0, another victory for the Seraphim. I think, without trying to name shame, apart from Wilhelm's game, the match before we just reviewed, the Seraphim have won the rest of their matches. So Seraphim looking in a really good spot.
Yeah, it just seems like the list that, I mean, we just flashed this list up there, but he was playing Khorne. It just seems like the list that don't have the defensive capability just got comprehensively blown off, right?
Yeah. I've just seen Will message, leave my War Dogs alone, I normally run 4. Well, you're not going to do that anymore, Will, in the new battle tome, I don't think. But
they're brilliant. I love them. They give you a WAR point as well. 85 points. Brilliant.
Cool. So that was Forgive versus Hunter. A pretty convincing win for the Seraphim there. We then had Leo Detro versus AZ and the Ogres. You're an Ogre player, and I know that you know AZ a little bit. So how proud are you of your boy AZ getting an 18-2 win over Detro here?
Well, this match, so I believe Detro was the mad lad running just all the Stegodons, just all the monsters you could just possibly wish for in the world. Like, you know, you're playing Imaginext in Age of Sigmar, basically. I don't think Imaginext has dinosaurs actually, but okay, you're bringing your Schlake miniatures right into Age of Sigmar. That's basically what he's doing. No, I've played Leo a bunch of times. We've always had good fun. He was playing Clan Molder last year. That was his. Not last year, I guess earlier this year. But it seems like in this matchup, you know, like ogres are quite good in the monster mash mirror, right?
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think Leo was the absolute hero or bastard, one of the two, that ran 70s Pink Horrors at one of Owen's events. So this guy loves his mad list.
Yeah, he likes pushing it to the absolute limit, I think. Yeah. Whether that be Squigs, I think he's also done like 45 Boingrots or something that he's done as well, I think. So he pushes it to the limit.
Stegodons weren't able to overcome the ogres here, so the ogres, and you know, able to get some wins here, which is good. We talked about pushing things to the limit. Table 26 was Matthew Tyrrell versus Hippie Chef, the Soul Blight mirror match. And I think we had a particular moment that we all want to talk about in this matchup, right?
Yeah, so there was a moment in the game where a 20 Graveguard went into 60 zombies, and they did 117 damage. This is after the 6-up ward save.
Big whoop.
Yeah. So I think with no buffs, he still would have killed them all. But that just shows how much damage 20 Graveguard. It wasn't even 20. I think it was 17 Graveguard because some had already died.
Lost 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So 117 is a lot of damage. That's huge territory, and you can imagine.
Do we know
also,
how he was able to get the damage? Quite that high.
So there are a number of buffs you could get in Soulblight Gravelords. So you get +1 attack from the Vampire Lord, +1 to hit and wound from Manfred, reroll ones to hit from the White King on Skeletal Steed, and reroll 6s to hit explode from Belladonna Volga, right? So if you put all that together, you should be on +2 attacks, 2s rerolling ones, 3s to wound, 6s to wound, do a mortal in addition, and 6 to hit, get an extra hit, and then neg 1 ran 2 damage.
Yeah. So this was like the two flavors of Soulblight that we've been seeing. We've been seeing Matthew running the more aggressive damage buff stacking Graveguard list into Hippie's Tar Pit zombie list, and I think it was a brutal double turn that decided this game. You know, Matthew gave Hippie turn 1 and then double turned Hippie. The output proving key to take down all those zombies there.
Yeah, though from what I've seen in the game, though, again, as we were saying before, it was one of those games where they both kept their key units back, and then all the kind of screeny combat units met in the middle, and then Matt
versus zombies.
Yeah. Graveguard, and then Matt also had some zombies, and I think also some skeletons maybe. And he just managed to take all of Hippie's zombies off, and then Matt had some screens, so even if he didn't end up winning the double turn, I don't think Hippie really had any good options going into his turn. But unfortunately, Matt did win the double turn, and then Hippie had no screens, and then everything just got removed. Yeah.
So I know Hippie has booked himself the priority seat in the Release the Beast submarine. So keep an eye on Hippie, Chef.
All right.
Table
the next
27.
one is your game. It's your game. 27.
I won, Stuart.
You did.
I won my
and
game.
Oh my god, people.
Against.
You will not believe how whiny this man was after turn 1. He was sending me he was just saying, Stuart, the game's over. I've failed all my charges. I didn't get my battle tactic. And then he sends me a message like an hour later saying, Kragnos just did 30 mortal wounds on the charge. Swings and roundabouts, people. Never give up.
I've been called out here. I've been called out. I'll give a more realistic rundown of that game, shall I? I played against Juan Carlos, who was an absolute gent. I had a great time playing against him. He was playing Take a Tribe, where he had a Kraken Eater with the Wizard Lantern and the 5-up ward, and then he had 3 War Stompers. He gave me first turn, which I wasn't sure that he was going to do or not. So what I tried to then do was I picked the battle tactic aggressive expansion to pick 2 objectives, and I got caught out by a really cool play that Juan did, where he redeployed his Mega Gargant that counts as 30 forwards towards me onto the objective, which was a really risky play because Kragnos was bearing down on him. But it paid off because Kragnos whiffed his attacks. He didn't do any mortal wounds on that version of the charge, and managed to stop me doing my battle tactic and killing the Gargants. That was like a 4 victory point swing that he managed to do there just by rolling a 6 on his redeploy. So redeploy can definitely be really huge, especially in Gargants when you count for 20 or 30 models per model. The rest of the game was relatively one-sided after that. I'd have to say it was a story of him retreating out of combat and me just repeatedly charging into him when I could. I managed to zone him out of the board. I pushed him off to the left, and I've had it done against me where the big bases are quite hard to maneuver, so I managed to block off half the board by using 2 of my Mega Gargants and 1 of the impassable terrain pieces to force him to sort of go underneath the terrain piece, where I set up quite a nice trap for putting a Man Crusher as bait on the objective. So he came in with his flaming weapons, Kraken Eater, to try and bring it down on the Man Crusher, which he obviously did because the Man Crusher's paper thin. And then in my turn I was able to spring the trap and got 2 Gatebreakers and Kragnos into his surviving 2 Gargants, and Kragnos rolled the big 30 mortal wounds on the charge and just annihilated that Kraken Eater, and it was game after that. Fantastic game. We talked about it before the show. Kragnos is fantastic. Kragnos is I think a really good meta pick at the moment. I think people thought he was really overcosted, and he came out in AOS 2 where not a lot of his rules made sense. I've been playing him a lot now, and I think he's come into his own in this edition.
I think there's a lot of matchups where you'll find that key thing that you really need to remove to win the game can just be killed by a Kragnos charge. Like, for example, Maw Crusher is a really threatening monster at the moment. We'll see whether it remains that way in the new battle tome, but I mean, Kragnos is going to kill the Maw Crusher, right? really
I'd hope
reliably.
so. Yeah, he's pretty darn good at that. He's got the mortal wounds from his charge. He's got the Rend 3 on his Dread Mace, and I've just found him to be an absolute clean-up crew. Is how I use him. I use him as sort of like the second punch. The first punch being the 2 gate breakers, and then the Kragnos is there to clean up the mess afterwards. Because he can be relatively fragile to mortal wounds. Can young Kragnos. So if you keep him out of harm's way, he's going to do the work, I think.
Yeah, I think in there's a great video by Haywo that came out the other day where he's talking about like the main unit archetypes in Age of Sigmar, and Kragnos definitely falls into the the like the Mega Gargants, right? He's that unit that just does a thing really well and doesn't need much support from your army to be able to do it. So
Absolutely.
although he is 700 points, it's not like Archeon where it requires like another package for him to work. Like he is just 700 points. That's what he costs, and for that you're getting something that's gonna, consistently take down enemy monsters. And if you're playing against an enemy Mega Gargan, you're immediately just creating this zone of you can't come here, or I have the potential to just one hit you, right?
Absolutely. And you asked me at the start of the game, do you feel that upgrade? Because basically what I view Kragnos as is an upgrade to another Gatebreaker, which I could have had in the list, and I've paid an extra 160 points or something like that to have a magic immune, mortal wound monster dealing, higher damage Mega Gargant is how I view him, with just slightly. I think he's still just as defensive as a Mega Gargant because he's all but immune to quote unquote normal damage with his 2-up armor save and access to all out defense and Happy Tuesday, finest hour. His only real weakness is mortal wound shooting. Bow snakes eat him up. I know we played a game where you've almost one-shot him with bow snakes, but a lot of the other games that I've played, Kragnos has actually been the one thing that has survived the game. So I'm really enjoying Kragnos. We'll move on to table 28. This was the Ender Ben unfortunately wasn't able to play his game, so Barber and Nicholas here actually played against Trogdor. Trogdor stepped in with his Buy-Buster list, his Corn list, against Nicholas's Kragnos Cabbage list, which was really cool. And he managed to get the win against the Buy-Buster, against Trog, which was no mean feat considering Trog's a great player, right?
Yeah, I did catch a bit of that game, and yeah, Trog just didn't quite have the output to deal with the big boys, I think. Yeah.
He managed to take down the Maw Crusher with some Marauders, which was really cool, but wasn't able to take down Kragnos, and again, Kragnos just cleaned up afterwards, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as we were saying before, Kragnos just mega reliable. Like, he's just 2s and 2s on everything, so if he's got to do a job, he'll just do it.
Absolutely. We'll move on to table 29. This was Pask versus Nikita. Do you know about this game?
I don't know about the specifics of the game, but in terms of the matchup, like this would be my nightmare to play against this as an ogre player. For those who haven't seen Nikita's list, it's possibly, I'll just get it up, it's possibly the most defensive list in the tournament. I'll just have to go in here to get it because it's an image. But basically it's 2 blocks of 30 skeletons and then 3 units of 5 blood knights with Manfred and some crap. And if you're playing an army like ogres, especially if you've more gone to the Beast Claw Raiders type of thing, they kind of struggle to get through this much stuff. So I think Pask would have struggled with that in the game.
Yeah, there's 167 wounds in Nikita's list. That a lot of them come back, and some of them are on a 2-up save. So Nikita managed to pull out the 15-5 victory over Pask there. Without wanting to call Pask out though, Pask was I think the only ogre player to lose this round. So ogres maybe not in as a bad place.
Let's go, lads.
Ogres maybe not
0-6, let's go.
Thank you, Pask. Ogres maybe not in as a bad place as you might have originally thought, despite the game that we just talked about.
Yeah, and look, initially when AOS 3 came out, I was having a bit of a sook, to be honest, because I was annoyed that everyone else got counts as 5. So I thought Ogres might be in a bad place. I think Gutbusters are in a bad place, but, combination builds or pure Beastful Raiders builds actually probably got a bit better, I have to admit.
I think they're one of those armies that lean into that. If I just have the stats and I just have the output, I can win a good chunk of my games if some things go my way, like priority rolls and things like that. Um, Similar to how the Gargants and a lot of the other combat armies that are doing well, just solid stats. No real tricks, no real buffs, just solid stats prevailing, right?
Yeah, and Keeley, those units, like, those armies like Gargants and like Ogre More Tribes, they have so as you said, they have no synergies, right? But we've kind of been given like some tricks and some synergies in the new core rules, so that kind of ameliorates some of the limitations of the Army's Allegiance, which is really the problem with the two books because the War Scrolls are great themselves, right?
Fantastic. Table 30. Another one of my favourite matchups. Azura's Khorne versus Little Tank's Flesh Eater Courts. Azura messaged me after the game about this, which I forwarded on to you, Stuart. So do you want to take it away on this wonderful match?
Yes.
Now under the bus there a bit.
Yes, it's difficult for me to view while I've got the thing open. I'll just talk while I'm looking for it. Well, I watched this game for a lot of it, and I had no idea who was winning the whole game because it was a big mosh pit in the middle, and then eventually, the feck just got ground out. I think was the situation, right?
I'll just get up Azura's message to me now because I know it was quite a fun one. I know that I think during our list review show that we said about both of Azura's list and Little Tank's list, you've just got to roll 6s because you've got the Bloodthirster with Azura's list and the Terrorgeist in Little Tank's list. From the results, it looks like Azura managed to roll the most 6s. Let me just get Azura's message up. 1 moment.
Yeah, I mean, in the end with feck, the Terrorgeists are kind of great for like a big impact play. Like you want to go in and kill this one thing and you roll some 6s and then it blows up. But for the consistent grind in the middle, even versus an army that's not that great of it, like Khorne, you might fall down, I think.
Yeah, so I've managed to got the roundup here. We had Khorne started off by taking up, pushing the objectives as you'd expect, and then Feck did the Feck big brain play of pushing up 3 Terrorgeists, getting the double turn and taking off quite a lot of the Khorne army. But on Khorne turn 2, we were able to take down a Terrorgeist with some Wrathmongers, killed the Ghoul King. And a Slaughter Priest killed his general by doing 5 damage with a Slaughter Priest in combat. And he took out the Vargolf as well, so he had a really decisive turn 2 where the Khorne was able to, roll quite hot, take down those Terrorgeists, which are their only defensive ability is in their output. Other than that, they're pretty paper, aren't they? They're really thin.
For 440 points, you're looking at like one of the squishiest units in the game in terms of wound and save per point, right? 14 wounds, 4 up save, 6 up after save, 400 and I think at 440 points. Yeah, very very squishy.
And I think from at that point, once the Terrorgeist died, Khorne was able to get the double turn back, taking objectives with some Scar Bloodwrath respawning shenanigans. So I think Azura's proven that he is the real Scar Bloodwrath. Please stand up. And then we had some Skull Cannons summoned in, missed its shot like a piece of shit, quote unquote, and then the Bloodthirster run around and killed everything else. So that was a really exciting game, and I'm pleased to have Azura as my round 2 matchup because both of these players seem like they're having an absolute blast. So I'm looking forward to having a bit of fun with Azura in round 2.
Brilliant.
Cool. We then had Dennis and Raincloud. I don't know too much about this matchup. Could you pull up the lists for me and see if it jogs my memory?
Oh, okay. It looks like another Seraphon.
Stegadon.
I think wasn't Rain Crowd. Was he playing Nighthaunt? Um, no, I
I
think
know
he might have.
Raincloud is probably one of our newer players on the Discord. I think he mentioned this is his
Ah,
first
that's right.
offering
Oh, this is the
Nurgle.
Plague-Claw
Yeah,
one. Yeah,
yeah,
this
yeah. Play core catapults.
which I believe did no damage and then unfortunately
They did
died, didn't
zero
it?
damage.
Yeah,
That's what happened.
I think that's the that's the story of the Plague-Claw catapults, isn't it? Unfortunately.
Didn't get his points back against the Seraphon, unfortunately. Um, so Dennis able to get the win there. 17-3. We'll move on to table 32 with Alex Tubb, friend of the show, and Nicholas. I think he's a friend of the show, but not a friend to his opponents because he's running quite a nasty control cabalist list.
So we asked it, we put a request out for everyone to give us a summary of our game, and Nicholas just sent us a one sentence, which was, "I spent 4 turns chasing around a Corn Bloodthirst, Demon Prince," and yeah, that's what playing against the Corn Demon Prince feels like, isn't it?
So Nicholas was running movement 4 list basically. He was running at loads of the new Annihilators in Stormcast and got Trek. And what Alex did was unceremoniously just kite those units around with his Demon Prince. The Demon Prince halving run and charge rolls. So that combined with the redeploy really neutered Nicholas's ability to sort of reach the key targets that he needed to. Um, and Alex Tubbs just sort of danced around him, taking objectives, taking victory points. And I know he was able to deny Nicholas some battle tactics for when he had decided to get broken ranks on a lone surviving Chaos Knight. Alex Tubbs, the absolute bastard, decided to rally in Nick's turn and get 2 6s on those Chaos Knights and bring 2 back, denying him the ability to kill that unit for broken ranks. So, just Tubbs being Tubbs, eh?
Yeah, I've watched Tubbs play this list a bunch of times, and it doesn't look like it's that great on paper, but once you actually see it play on the board, it's one of those lists that it's really good at denying battle tactics, right? That's what makes it able to
It's
get
really
ahead.
quite all in on the control. I think it lacks some of the output that it might need to, go 4-1 or 5-0 at a tournament, but it can certainly just win games by denying, controlling, and bullying opponents' lists and stopping them doing what they want to do. Anti-synergy list. So,
Yeah, and it's so
we'll be
interesting that
going
we've kind
into
of got all these new archetypes of list building, because it used to be, your list is good at holding objectives or your list is good at taking objectives. So it's basically the two archetypes that used to exist. And now you kind of got two new ones, which are your list is great at getting battle tactics, and then your list is great at denying battle tactics, right? I
yeah.
feel like we kind of got
Um,
four, and then your list can be anywhere on those four measurements in terms of taking or holding objectives or denying or getting battle tactics, and kind of where you lie on that is going to determine both the matchup and the final score.
I think both archetypes are quite capable of winning their games. However, what we've noticed is that Alex Tubbs there got the 17-3 result. But we go on to the next game, which was table 33, Matt versus Pitari. Pitari, this was an IDK mirror match. The output lists are the ones that are getting the 20 and O's. Pitari, a fantastic player, and had so much output in his IDK list with Voltunus and 4 units of Morsar Guard, the Eidolon and the Leviathan, and was just able to absolutely smash Matt off the table on his turn 3 was what I saw. So I think output lists are the lists that we're seeing going 20 and 0.
But that's to be expected in the first round of a tournament, right? The list that just are able to table someone at the top of two, especially if they're maybe a little less experienced at the game, are what's going to go 20 and 0 in the first round, right?
Absolutely, but I think just linking quickly back to Alex's Tubbs control list, do we think that Alex's list is never going to be able to table an opponent? So I think that gives the opportunity for the opponent to get more battle tactics, having lost the game, but play out the rest of turn 4 and 5 and get a few battle tactics by sitting on an objective or going into the opponent's territory and stuff, which might actually edge the tournament in favour of some of these combat lists that are just doing raw output. So that's actually one of my predictions is maybe the output lists are going to be the ones we're seeing taking out the podium, despite some of the control lists maybe winning all their games still. I don't know, maybe that's just my feeling about something.
Well, my feeling about it is like if you look at the breakdown at the end of the tournament within the brackets, you're going to see the ones that do output be at the top of the bracket, right? That's what you'd expect because on the times that they win, the times that they win, you get the 20-0. But as I was saying before, there's going to be one player with 6-0, right? So I might think that could be a control list, right? Maybe we're going to see Philip Carter to get out of that 6-0, for example, with his control list because to win the tournament, you just need to be 6-0 regardless of, how many points you've scored in the games, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, cool. I think that's a really cool narrative that we've got between the list archetypes. We've got table 34 and we've got Constantine versus Perlude City list. Constantine was running his ogres.
Yep. And I think he's running one of the best ogre lists, which is 3 Frosters and Stonehorn, all with Metal Cruncher, which is just like a headache and a half to play against. It's just so many mortal wounds. So your big save stacky thing that you like to throw at your opponent and just be like, you can't kill this. They definitely can kill it. So you're gonna have to have another strategy. Yeah.
So Constantine rounding out the wins for the ogres there with a 15-5. Table 35 was Darian Dardar with his this was actually a forfeit. Michael wasn't able to play his round 2, so got the 20-0. But we've got a Dread Saurian on 20-0, Stuart.
He's got to get on the table. We got to see him play in round 2. I want to see the Dread Saurian before it returns to the monstrous realms.
He's matched up against Gargants. He's matched up against Miles' Gatebreaker list in round 2. So I'm gonna keep an eye on that one. That's gonna be hilarious.
The age of Timmy's. Okay.
We'll move on. We're nearly at the end now. We've got Nico Lunch versus Chris. So this was Nico Lunch's KO versus Chris's absolutely mad 13 Salamander list. I know you've got something to say about this game, Stuart.
Yeah. So this game, I mean, what a mad pairing of lists. So, I mean, Nicholas's list has so many ways to heal the Ironclad, right? I think he's got 2 units of 6 Endrin Riggers, and it's important to note the new Guild Triumphs from Broken Realms, Bellicor, I think it is, help you heal that Ironclad up. And it sounds like there was a lot of trading going on throughout the game, but in the end the Salamanders just couldn't quite take the Ironclad out, and that managed to just machine gun his way through the rest of the Salamanders. And I think that the Ironclad's really going to be that indicator going forward of how much damage your unit can do, because that thing is so tanky, and if you don't kill it, the punishment is just huge because of the healing. Yeah,
the narrative that I got from this game was that Chris probably did have all of the output that he needed in his Salamanders, because Salamanders, Ren 2, they do mortal wounds. He's got 13 of them. But he wasn't able to obviously get them all in the same place. They've only got a 12-inch range, and he needs to spread out and take board space. And Nico Lunch is playing KO, so was able to teleport his Ironclad into a position where the Salamanders might not be able to reach him and outrange him and blast him. So I think Chris's list MSU approach was actually his downfall in this matchup, not being able to focus fire that Ironclad enough and take it out in one go. I think it really was the story of I need to kill the Ironclad here to win the game, and he wasn't able to do so. But Nico Lunch seemed to... I really like his list. He was the fella that didn't go with a Skyport. He made his own, and that obviously paid off for him, getting the 15-5 win against a list that isn't a list to be pushed over, the Salamander list.
Yeah, though I think ultimately when you're playing a super MSU army, when your opponent runs like a mobile castle like that, it can be very difficult to play against, because it almost feels like you don't have an angle to really take stuff off the board, because as soon as you group any part of your army, so let's say you take half of your army directed towards them, You're kind of playing with half your army versus their whole army. So
Yeah, I think that's kind of the gist of the game.
yeah, so really in that situation, you're kind of in a game of chicken in deployment where, I mean, maybe the salamanders could have been put in the same spot, but then because of the KO player's got so much mobility, he can just decide for himself to spread out, and then suddenly you're on the receiving end of the MSU playstyle. So that just shows the
Yeah,
strength of KO in general, doesn't it?
I know Nicholas was running the 30 Archanaut company with the Soul Screen Bridge in the spell in the bottle, so was able to clear a hole with his Ironclad in the Seraphon lines, and then basically dump 30 Arcanauts onto an objective with the Soul Screen Bridge, and fight out from there. So um, it sounded like a really cool tactical game, and I just want to pat Nicholas on the back there because I think he played a solid game to get that win.
Yeah, and just with the 30 Arcanauts, KO have lost a lot with the new Triumph changes, but the fact that the 30 Arcanauts have gone back again to having access to ignore battle shock through the Triumphs, I think really makes the big units of Arcanauts good again. So that's an interesting
Yeah,
change in
and
the
I
army.
think he had the you know
Uh-oh, have we lost Luke? Okay. I think we've lost Luke, but we'll talk about the last game, okay? This was, from what I heard, a very interesting game. So, a few interesting moments. I think it was quite back and forth, and the Peter Dixon, who was playing ogres, was putting an incredible amount of damage out. He managed to take out almost 200 wounds of pink horrors throughout the game, and a key 12-inch charge allowed one of his Stonehorns to get into Be'lakor, and he actually took out Be'lakor. I've played Legion of Prince myself a bunch of times, and I've never seen anyone get remotely close to killing Be'lakor. For those who don't know, not only is he 4-up Ethereal, he can pass wounds on a 4-up to demon units within 9 of him, just within 9. Yeah. Are you there, Luke? Okay, we've lost him again. And yeah, so pass off wounds within 9, and then he's also got a 6-up Shrug or a 5-up if he's near the General, who's got Ruinous Aura. So that just makes him incredibly difficult to deal with, especially since he can summon more bodies throughout the game, and Pink Horrors have so many wounds. But Peter Dixon was able to get in and blow Be'lakor off, and the game looked quite close there, but eventually Philip was just able to, as you do with the Legion of the First Prince, just grind your way through the game and score the battle tactics and take out the victory.
Hello.
Okay, are you back?
Did I join you at the end of the summary of one of my favourite games of the tournament so far?
Yes.
Um,
What are
I'm
your
sure you've
thoughts on
summarised most of it.
Philip Cartier versus Peter Dixon?
So on this one, I just want to shout out Peter Ironside. Philip was my favourite of the tournament going into this, with a control Legion of the First Prince list, and Ironside managed to get 7 points off of it, which is, I think, something to be celebrated. Philip messaged me after the game saying how well Peter played. Was able to do over 200 wounds to the Legion of the First Prince player, but still wasn't able to get the victory. And I think that's more to do with the play experience that playing against horrors probably creates, rather than anything else. But
Yeah.
I just huge respect for Ryan Tide on that game. It sounded like an absolute corker. Both players were really happy with it after the game, and were really excited in their messages that they sent to me telling me how it went. So good to see Iron Tide getting 7 points. It's going to give him a good standing to get a submarine, and Philip now has a little bit more work to do if he's wanting to try and take out the tournament, don't you think?
Yeah, although as we were saying, as long as he gets to 6-0, he's still locked for first, isn't he? Yeah.
Absolutely. So Philip's still definitely one to watch. I'm not sure who he's got round 2. I know he'll probably have a round 2 that also got relatively low victory points on the win. He has got
I think he's got the Maw Crusher with Kragnos. The one he played against Trog in round two, by memory.
He
Yeah,
think Bellacoil gonna come into his own there, isn't he?
yeah, that's a bit rough for the Craggy and the Maw Crusher. Um,
Hmm.
and getting through the pinks might be a bit difficult as well with that list. Anyway, we'll see
But
how
I
that
would
pans
have
out.
thought that that would have been the same against the Stonehorns that Peter brought to the table. But Peter proved us wrong, so maybe Chaos can too. Um, we finished going through the round, Stuart. How are you finding the tournament so far?
I've been having a great time. I think the Discord is a great vibe. Um, so many people are posting looking for game chat and getting games in, and it's great. It's great the TTS didn't die. I was worried about that, but it's alive and well, and we're having a great time.
Yeah, I just want to second what Stuart said there to everyone watching and everyone watching on YouTube later where Stuart records it. The Release the Beast Discord is turns out to be a fantastic place for Warhammer players to meet and talk, and there's a lot of banter going on the chats, a lot of people supporting each other. There's some hobby pictures being posted, lots of games being played, um, and it's just an awesome place to be. And I'm really pleased to be part of this tournament. I'm having a great time. Can't wait for my round two, and we do plan to do another one of these round matchups at the end of round two. So please keep track of your games. Send me or Stuart a message of how your games go, and good luck to everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Gopi.